Hello and welcome to Vue to a Kill, the Vue Build and Burn, where we will be doing a Rails backend. We'll be doing a Vue front end. I believe there was a request for a Vue router to be a part of this as well. All right, you want it, you got it. All right, so let's sketch this out a little bit. This is going to be, well, I'm not very creative, so this is going to be Barkwire, dating app for dogs. So Barkwire has 2 pages. It's going to be a list of dogs. So we'll have a dogs route, and then a list of places you can go on dates. There will be a places route. And then there's going to be so our entire page is going to be in this app container. And then all of the individual pages will show up in here. And there'll be like a home link and then like a nav bar that'll go to dogs or places. All right, cool. And then on the API side, we'll have a, let's say that dogs includes name and age. And places includes name and just to be weird, let's do image URL. Those will both be strings. All right, cool. There's our app. That's what we're going to build. Questions about this so far? Cool. So we're going to do this thin vertical slices style. So we could build out the entire back end, then we could build out the entire front end, and then we could wire them together, which is exactly the way that I'm constantly quacking at you guys not to do. So we're going to do the right way. We'll do tests because we only have an hour, but we'll do still do thin vertical slices. So our first thin vertical slice is to say like identify the page or the app. So we want something saying what Barkwire is all about. And then for 2, next priority is going to be listing dogs. That's the only thing we can do. That's what we want. And then 3rd priority, listing places. So we're going to do everything we need to do to get each of these steps done before we move on to the next one. All right, let's get to it. So first one, identifying the app. So this doesn't actually need a backend to it, just the view part. So let's scaffold something out. So we're going to do view create backwire. Yeah, like that. There we go. Cool. So let's manually select features. And we want, let's throw in router and CSS preprocessors. Fuck it. I'm going to do end-to-end testing too. All right. And then for our view version of Vue, why not 3? I like 3. And that's fine. 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 Let me just enter through all the rest of that. Really, the only one of those that you like super need is router. Cool. While that's running, questions about scaffolding out something with Vue CLI.
So is this basically building the framework for the Vue app that we're going to start building?
Works the same way that the Rails generators do. You create, Rails new, same kind of thing. Cool. Backwire is live. So since we're also going to do a backend on this, I'm going to throw all this in a subfolder. So how about I make a folder called front end, and I move everything into front end. Cool. Nice. So then I'm going to do a get init, get init. Then let's see, is there already a repo? Sometimes these generators will also auto start a repo for you. I don't want that if that's the case. So I'm gonna throw that in here. Yeah, so that already has that .git folder. I don't want it. I'm gonna blow that out and go with this brand new repo. So I'll commit everything to that, and we'll make a commit for scaffolds out front end. All right, neat. So we got that stuff. Next thing, go over to that front end. Fuck it. I'm gonna start a tmux session. Next thing, let's fire up some servers. So I'm going to go into that front end folder and do an npm run dev. What is it? Serve. npm run serve. Cool. Over on 8081. All right, and there's a Vue app. Sick. While we're over here, let's go ahead and get those tests running too. So I'm gonna hop over to front end and say, fuck, what is it? Test EDE, npm run test EDE. So that'll fire up Cypress. And while that's going, let's take a look at our end-to-end spec. All right, cool. So let's kind of define our victory condition here. So if we go to the app, we want to see the H1 actually say something like Barkwire. And it doesn't. says a whole bunch of other shit, does not have anything that says barkwire on it. All right, there's our end. So if I go over to app.view, we can do a little bit of cleanup. Get rid of all these styles and just have a nice fresh app. So we'll add our H1. It says backwire. All right, cool. Now we got a passing test. See, it's just that easy. Then I'm going to bring that nav back. Oops, actually, we don't have anything to navigate to yet. All right, so here's how Vue router works. This router view component, that's going to get swapped out for anything that matches like a routing pattern on this. So if I take a look at the router file, I've got two routes on here, this home and this about. I actually don't want either of them. I'm going to add an object to this that has the name of index. I'm going to give it path of root, and then it needs a component, and I'll use the home one for that, like that. And then if I go over to that home view of those other boilerplate shit they gave us, delete all of this and say something like and just like that. Cool. Barkwire, the dating app for dogs. So this is the outer component. That's the top level component. That's this outer box here. And then we have this hole that's kind of punched through it. That's what the router view does. And in this router, it says, hey, if the path is just the root of the application, why don't you go ahead and render this home component inside of it? And so then that's the thing that ends up going in there. Ta-da! That's view routing. And shoot, the goal was to identify the app. I think that app is done identified. Questions about it?
In other videos that I've seen you do on Vue Burn and builds, you take out a lot more stuff. Is there a reason why you're not doing that?
Because I'm lazy.
Oh,
So
okay.
the stuff, and there's not that much stuff that I take out. So some stuff that I will commonly remove are this image because we're not using it, this component because we're not using it. All the routes, I did get rid of all the routes. This about view because we're not using it. I am actually using this home view, so I'm going to keep it. And that's usually the only stuff that I take out. Like having a fresh start. Other questions?
What did you use to write that test?
Cypress. So I told Vue CLI to include this when I scaffolded out the app. So it's all wired up and stuff for me. It's pretty cool.
Are you using Cypress as like a preference, or is it something that you typically use with Vue?
I use Cypress for my high-level test almost exclusively. So this does a different thing than like Jest or Mocha or some of those testing tools do. This is browser automation. So it operates a browser for you and then tells you whether or not certain things are in the browser. So it can click on things, it can look at the URL, it can look at the DOM. So any of that kind of stuff, Cypress is my go-to tool for that. An alternative to that would be Selenium. That's like the historical big one for this. But it's generally, you write Selenium tests in Java, which sucks. and Selenium is slow as shit and like really awkward to write. Cypress rocks. And check it out. It's running the browser for me. I like that. Other questions?
What's up, nerd?
Hey, hi, honey. All right. So now that we got that feature done, let's clean it up just a little bit. We're describing Barkwire. It identifies the page. See how these tests, they end up kind of documenting your features also. Weird. That looks all right. That looks all right. That looks all right. Cool. So ship it. I'm going to make a commit for adds site identification. Done. All right, next feature is listing dogs. Here's how I approach this. First thing that I want to do is I'm going to add another view for, if I go in here, views, should make another one of these called dogs. So I'll just copy home over to dogs.view. And this will be called dogs. And actually, before I do any of this, I should probably write the test for it. So I'll say it lists dogs. So if you go to the home page and then you find the anchor tag that says dogs and you click it, then you should be able to have like an H2 that says dogs, and you should be able to get like a dogs list that should, actually I'll do this. Should be able to get a dog listing that has length greater than, let's see, greater than 1. Should be more than one dog that shows up. If I can do these 4 things, that tells me that feature worked. Cool. Do any of those things work now? What do you know? It can't find an anchor with dogs in it because I haven't added one yet. All right, so I've got this dogs view here. This is going to have an H2 that says dogs. It's going to have a list of dogs in it. It's going to have these LIs. And this will say something like Bixby is 20. Bixby's been dead a very long time, but Bixby will have Mesa. Mesa's also probably been gone a while. And we'll have Harmony, who's little. All right, cool. So I've got a view here. If I go over to my router, and say, all right, well, I've also got a dogs route. Anytime the path matches dogs, that should show up. And I want the dogs view. All right, test. How do you like me now? Oops, still doesn't link to the page. Figures. So if I go over to maybe this app.view and add a nav, this will have a list of links in it. The first of which is the link to helper. This will say dogs. And this will go to the dogs route. I think that works. Oops, still can't find it. So maybe I didn't do that right. Let's do an element inspect on it. Oh, that's right. Link to is what it is in Ember. It's called a router link. And so this is what happens when you pick up too many of these fucking front-end frameworks. All right. There we go. Oop, I was looking for dogs inside of it. That's not what it is. Capital D dogs. Let's try that again. Expected to find the content dogs within the selector H2, but never did. Did it click on it? Oh, shoot. Should have clicked on it. All right, let's check it. Let's explore a little bit. So if I click on that, ooh, it doesn't look like it actually did the navigation. Let's see. Check it out in this one. Ah, that's why. See, tests are saving our ass, man. I didn't close the UL. Okay, it says I got the click. Ah, the LIs also. See, tests are still saving me. All right, to get them all now. There we go. All right, you happy now? All right, cool. So we got one step further in the test. Expected this to have a length above 1, but got 0. Should have had that. So it is looking for something with the class of dog listing. So I got to add those classes. So one of the things that's nice about this is I can catch this kind of thing before. I haven't involved Rails. I haven't even Rails nude yet. So no, it's not the database. It's not the migration. There's a whole like massive scope of things that I know are not the problem. It's one of the reasons to do development this way. All right, let's try that again. All right, I got a green test now. So all I have to do as I like actually develop out the rest of this is keep this green. Ah, that's a lot easier than jamming everything together at the end and crying when it doesn't work. There's like 5 fucking mistakes that I made in there. Make the like surface area of your problem smaller. All right, so now I just have to actually make this dynamic. So a few different ways I could do this. First thing I'm going to do is turn this like hard-coded HTML into hard-coded JavaScript. It's a pretty easy step. I'm going to export default. Going to return maybe something like that. And then this will have name, Bixby, age 20. Come on, come on. Mesa. One of the things I'll do with this sometimes is just change it in a way that doesn't matter so that I can see that like something actually changed on the screen. All right, so I've got some hard-coded data in here. So now, can I make this part of it dynamic? So if I put a v4 on that for dog and dogs, and then make this a dog.name, and that a dog.age, and then get rid of these. All right. Oh, and it needs a key too.
Is that v4 a for loop inline?
Yep. Only in Vue though, but yes. So it needs to be something that uniquely identifies these. So I got to give it a key. So we'll say that that's ID 1, ID 3. All right, and then this is also true in React. This is butt ugly, so we can make that a lot easier to read if we just put each of those on their own lines. Ah, much nicer, except for that. There we go. That's how we want that to look. All right, cool. So moment of truth. Is the test still green? Appears so. All right, didn't break anything. So next thing, now I want to get this hard-coded data like from a server. First, seems like a mighty fine time to make a commit. So we might say adds hard-coded dogs to page. Neat. All right, now outside of our front end folder, we're going to Rails new --API, and we can call it backend. Well, that's all rolling. What questions do you have so far?
Are there other enumerable functions you can use in inline like that, or is it just like for loops? Like, can you do like a v map or something? I don't know.
Not really. Nor would you want to. Like, you want your templates to have as little logic in them as possible. Now, in truth, you can just do arbitrary JavaScript expressions in Vue, which is stupid. But like, there's a couple of them. There's v4, there's v-if, and like v-else if and v-else. There's v-show, which is kind of like v-if, except it doesn't actually take it out of the DOM. That's how your videos page works. There's a couple other ones like that, but there are not a ton of them, and that's a good thing.
And sorry, did I totally miss it? But did you have to vbind in order to like actually instantiate like dog.age, dog.name there?
Nope.
Or not instantiate, interpolate, whatever.
So this right here says everything in dogs, which is this little state array right here. It's like for each or something like that, where it's like, all right, for every one of those, and now dog is in scope for all of that. Magic. Other questions? Cool. I hop over that back end, and I'm going to go over the router. And we'll do a any get request to dogs should go to, actually shit, fuck it, do resources dogs solamente index. All right, so that so I've got routing for this. I want to give myself a controller also. Rails G controller dogs. Very nice. If I head over to that controller, I'm actually going to do the exact same thing. Before I get the database involved, how about I just hard code it and make sure that all this shit still works. So I'll make an index route for this. And I'll take these here hard-coded dogs. I need to make these rubied. But we're a lot of the way there already. Yeah, it looks all right. And then I'm going to render JSON. Dogs is dogs. And otherwise call that good. Now, the thing that I usually forget when I'm doing this walkthrough, who can tell me what's the other thing I have to do before any of this will work? It's 4 letters long.
Seed?
Nope. Good guess.
Oh, don't you need to bring in that gem course?
Yep. Tiffany's got it. I
So I have
gotta,
to think Ruby again.
yeah, so I gotta do the course thing. It's the easiest part to forget in this entire thing. I gotta tell it that this front end is allowed to make requests to this backend. All right, so cores gem is in there, cores is configured, all that's popping. If I go over here and Rails S, over on old port 3000, I should be able to get some dogs back. Let's see if I can. It's beautiful. All right, cool. So the backend's working. Now, instead of this hard-coded data in my dogs view, what if whenever this gets created, I do a fetch request to localhost 3000/dogs. What if I parse that response? What if I take the dogs that I get back and set the state to that? Set the initial state of dogs to an empty array. And by Jove, that should do it. Let's see if it still works. Womp womp, something's wrong. Something got through though. That's interesting. Let's take a look at the network. Okay, so it came back. That's a good thing.
Did you bundle install again after uncommenting out cores?
I already have it. Like, it's a good practice, but gems are installed globally, which is stupid, but they are. So that's why I didn't have to. All right. So did this come back? Yes, it did. Aha! Anybody catch it? Why it didn't work? And why I still have something showing up on the page?
Is it because it's dogs is like a wrapper around the actual object that you're trying to get to?
Correct. So really, I can fix this problem by saying like response and then response.dogs. That'll work. and then we're green again. Here's something you might not have seen before. This is like questionably readable, but like I do this every once in a while. You may have wondered if you can destructure in these things, and you totally fucking can. You can't do it like that though. Syntax doesn't work. If you wrap that in parentheses, it will though, and then you can do that. Kind of a cool trick. Am I still green?
Does that work in other fetches, in other things?
Yep. You can destructure in any fat arrow thing that way. You have to wrap the arguments in parentheses for it to work.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, so now it's kind of the opposite of what was happening before. Before, I didn't have a back end to worry about. Now, I don't have a front end to worry about. I know the front end works. So as I'm doing like the databases and stuff, whole like wide realm of problems that I do not have anymore. All right, so this is going to be adds hard-coded dogs route. Cool, so that's in there now. So now I need to like databaseify this. So I'm going to Rails G model dog. And then let's take a look at that model. Fine. Look at the migration for it. This is going to have t.string name, t.string or t.integer age. Cool. Can I migrate? Rails DB migrate. It's beautiful. And then I'm going to hop over to seeds. And those hard-coded dogs that I had in the controller, I'm going to move those over here. So this will be dog.create. Okay, so I've got some seeds. I will do a dog.destroy all, which is a very grim method name given context, but we do what we must. All right, so now I've got seeds in here. Can I Rails DB seed? Apparently I can. All right, now back over to that controller.
Kyle, sorry, I have a quick question. In your seeds, you left the ID in dogs there, even though Rails.
Did I? Yeah, fuck that. I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was like on purpose.
Nope, it wasn't. Let the database do that. All right, so if I comment those things out instead, make dogs dog.all. Moment of truth. Are the tests still green? God damn it, the tests are still green. I love it. Cool. That means I can start looking at some cleanup. That looks okay. That's fine. Goodbye. 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 Looks fine. Bye. 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 Cool. Neat. So it seems like a mighty fine place for a commit. Adds dynamic dogs to the page. And it's done. So that is our second story. Time for the last and final story. Can we list some places? Let's give it a shot. So our test for that would be something like, all right, I go here, I find the link that says places, I click on it, it should have an H2 that says places, and it should have a more than one place listing in it. So all right, cool. Doesn't have a link called places. Excellent. Also, those little like green pluses, there's VS Code plugins for this too. It just tells you stuff that's changed since your last commit. So you can actually do some pretty small ass commits. And there's like really good tools even just baked into text editors for this too. So I can say like, I would like to stage that change that I just made. See how the pluses went away? And then I want to commit that change. So I can say like, adds tests for place listings. Cool. Now I have a save point. See what that good git commit discipline gets you? All right. So what is the like fastest, cheesiest way I can make that problem go away? Well, how about I go over to this and just add another router link. And I want to send it to places. All right, what do you think of that thing? Well, it clicked on it, but it doesn't have an H2 because there isn't actually a page for that yet. So I am going to head over to those router views. I am going to copy dogs over to places. I'll call that places. I'll call this places. I'll call this place in places. Call that place ID, place listing. Now everything after that gets a little bit different, so I'm going to leave that out. This will be called places, and I'm just going to comment that. Nope. I'm going to comment that out for right now. All right, cool. How's the test feel about that? So I have an H2 that says places. Nope. Probably because I'm not routing to it. So if I go over to my router, places, just copy that dogs one. Cool. How about now, test? Hey, places is showing up. Now we just don't have the thing showing up. Cool. So let's add some hard-coded places. These we're going to have like a name and a URL. So maybe ID, image, URL, and name. So 2 places. We're going to have local 46. RIP. And then, all right, so there's a URL. And then we'll also have Dirty Laundry, the new watering hole over in the neighborhood formerly known as Central Park. Dirty Laundry, or Stapleton, Central Park. Oh, there it is. Awesome picture. So, oop, data. I don't want to do a data URL. Give me a real URL. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so I've got 2 URLs in there. So for each one of these listings, this will be something like an image. We'll bind the source of that image to place.image URL. We'll give it some alt text for place.name. And then we'll give it a title 2. Place.name. And I take it back. These are going to be H3s. All right. So if I did that right, we should have that working like now. Let's see if it is. Hey, I see fields of green, red roses too. Okay, cool. And while I'm looking at this, let's constrain those images a little bit too. So we could go down to styles, tell it we're using SCSS, and say that within the places component, any images on there, places, should have a max width of 100%, and that places should be constrained, I don't know, 300 pixels. There we go. Cool. So we got places showing up. Now we just got to keep it green while making that dynamic. So it seems like a mighty fine place to do some more commits. Ooh. How did the submodule get in here? Ooh, I wonder, does Rails have its own shit too? I'll bet it does. Hang on. Oh, yeah, it totally does. Damn it. All right. There we go. Oh, no. Oh, I fell into the submodule problem. All right, I don't want to fix this now, but you definitely want to kill both of those like nested repos before you do something like this. Oof. All right. Adds static places front end. Cool. So to make this dynamic on the back end, I'm going to go to the Vue router. Nope, not the Vue router, the Rails router. Back end routes. We'll add a places thing. Again, only the index. We'll go over to the back end, and we will make a controller, Rails G controller places. I go to that controller that I just made. I will make an index. And just like we did before, I'm going to take this hard-coded data and make it hard-coded data over here. So if this is places equals, all the rest of that is pretty much the same. Render JSON, places, places. All right, cool. So if I go back to my front end and get rid of that, initialize it to an empty array, and then make this places instead. Does it still work? God damn, it does. Beautiful. So last thing, that's a fine place to make a commit. Ugh, I know. adds static places backend. All right, so now I need to go back into the backend and Rails G model place. And I will, let's see, go to the migration for that. And this has a string for name and a string for image URL. Cool. And then over in our seeds, we can move, let's run that migration. Rails DB migrate. And then over in our hard-coded controller here, just move this stuff over to the seeds. So this will be place.destroy all, and then place.create. Get rid of those IDs. Tighten all that up. All right, thing of beauty. So I should be able to rerun those seeds. No drama. And then make this places is place.all. And shit, I think we're done. Let's take a look. Are the tests still green? The tests are still green. Holy shit, we made an app that has multiple links. Does it still work when we go to it in a normal browser? Sure does look like it. Ta-da! That is TDDing a full stack app with 2 routes and 2 resources. Ask me some questions about it.
This is awesome. Okay, so because you used Rails as your backend, you're just using Rails as an API. Does that mean that you can now use everything that Rails gives you?
Yep.
And so yeah, I can do validations, I can do strong params, I can do everything.
Everything. Yeah, from Vue's perspective, this is the whole point of HTTP, by the way. Like, Vue doesn't give a shit how this data was generated. It could just be coming from a flat file for all it knows. HTTP abstracts all of that out. If it comes back in the response, good enough for Vue.
And where does Vuex come into all of this?
Vuex is a state management tool. And so, for example, it's kind of gross to have like all of this fetch logic in this view. I don't like that at all. So I can keep all of the logic for that, as well as all of this kind of stuff centralized in one kind of thing. And then in this component, I go, yo, store, can you go get me some dogs? And then you make Vuex handle how those things are retrieved.
And is that when you would do like the @$ store dot whatever it was piece of information that you're trying to grab?
That kind of stuff, yeah. So instead of like having this come from state like it does here, you'd have a computed property called places that would return this $store state.dogs.
Yeah, I need to look into computed more, because I was like going through the build and burns that you had on the back end on the Firebase or whatever. And I was like, what is this computed doing? So I got to just look into that more.
It's a derived state that is from something else. It's not its own state. It is calculated off of other state.
And that's when you start getting into that whole sort of, I don't want to call it like a state loop, but like that whole thing where mutations affect
Mhm.
state, and then state dictates views, that sort of thing?
Correct. Yep, Vuex
Got it.
is a tool for managing that whole circle.
Awesome.
Cool. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, can you throw this on Firebase?
Yep, certainly can.
Oh man, thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate you.
No problem. Cheers.
Have a
See
good
you,
one.
man.